Hola chicos y bienvenidos a la clase de español. Si aún no me conocéis, me llamo Elena y soy profesora de las lenguas extranjeras. So today what we're going to have a look at are the four main basic Spanish tenses. We're going to have a look at present tense with presente de indicativo. We're going to have a look at the past tense, pretérito indefinido de indicativo, as well as the future tense, futuro simple, and conditional tense, conditional. So, with these four tenses, you'll be able to express yourself in present tense, past tense, future tense, and conditional tense. So we cover all the basics that you need to know. So if you know these four tenses, you actually covered up to B1 level in terms of your language capacity if you kind of want to pass one of the language exams and you're learning the Spanish language for this reason. Okay, let's start with the tenses. I will cover all three conjugation groups. That means that we'll have a look at how to conjugate AR, ER, and IR verbs, but we're going to concentrate only on the regular verbs. And let's start with present tense. We use present tense to describe, for example, actions that are happening on a regular basis. Por ejemplo, cada mañana tomo un café. We also use present tense to describe a general characteristic of an object or a person. For example, Ana es una chica buena, or me gusta mucho el nuevo coche de Juan. Now, how to conjugate the verbs in present tense? Well, this is where you need to know the different endings. So, AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs are three main groups of verbs in Spanish language, and you need to know how to conjugate them. So you need to memorize different endings that you need to kind of change based on the person that you're going to be talking about. For example, let's start with the first group of verbs, which are AR verbs. So the first verb that we're going to have a look at is ayudar. In the first person is yo ayudo, tú ayudas, él, ella ayuda, nosotros ayudamos, vosotros ayudáis y ellos ayudan. And you probably noticed that the main vowel throughout the conjugation that kind of repeats itself is the vowel a, and that's why we are calling these verbs AR verbs, because they're also infinitive ends with the AR, ayudar. Now, the second group is ER verbs, so los verbos que se terminan en er. So we can take, for example, the verb comer. Yo como, tú comes, él, ella, usted come, nosotros comemos, vosotros coméis y ellos, ustedes comen. And you can see that the main vowel in this conjugation group is actually the vowel E. And let's have a look at our last group, which are ir. So, los verbos que terminan en ir, so IR verbs. The verb that we're going to have a look at is el verbo vivir. Yo vivo, tú vives, él, ella, usted vive, nosotros vivimos, vosotros vivís y ellos, ustedes viven. And now let's have a look at our second tense, which is past tense. We're going to precisely have a look at pretérito indefinido de indicativo. This past tense is used to describe an action that has happened in the past tense, and it does not have any relation whatsoever with the present tense. It also means that it happened only once, so the action happened only once in the past tense. Por ejemplo, ayer compré unas manzanas. And now let's have a look at how to conjugate the verbs in pretérito indefinido de indicativo. Yo hablé, tú hablaste, él, ella, usted habló, nosotros hablamos, vosotros hablasteis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes hablaron. Also, it's important to remember that with pretérito indefinido de indicativo, you look for the clues when to use this past tense, because there are going to be a lot more past tense that you probably will learn at some other time. And to know when to use pretérito indefinido, you need to look for the clues, and most likely you will use some specific time phrases like ayer, anteayer, la semana pasada, el mes pasado, el año pasado, el verano pasado, so everything that has the adjective pasado in it. También hace un día, hace 2 meses, hace 3 años, so anything that has hace in front of it, so which means hace 3 años, 3 years ago. As well as if you're using a specific date in 1999, for example, so if you're referring to a specific a year or a month that related, of course, to the past tense. Now, the second group are the ER verbs. So let's have a look at how to conjugate ER verbs in the past tense. For example, aprender would be yo aprendí, tú aprendiste, él, ella, usted aprendió. Nosotros aprendimos, vosotros aprendisteis, ellos, ellas, ustedes aprendieron. And IR verbs, as example verb, we can have a look at escribir. Yo escribí, tú escribiste, él, ella escribió, nosotros escribimos, vosotros escribisteis, ellos, ellas, ustedes escribieron. And you probably have noticed that the endings actually in the past tense and in pretérito indefinido de indicativo for ER verbs and IR verbs are actually the same, which means that it will take you less time to actually learn these endings. I would like to remind you that I do have loads of very useful, bright, colorful, engaging material to study Spanish language on my Etsy shop. So you can have a look at it. You can acquire different flashcards, you can acquire different booklets, so you can do a lot of practice of the tenses. After you watch this video and you want to practice a bit more, there is all the explanation there. There are plenty of different tasks, fill in the gaps, multiple choice, as well as recognizing the tense that you need to use in the text. So make sure that you have a look at my Etsy shop, because you will find loads of different and very useful material to study Spanish language that will definitely help you on your journey to the fluency. Okay, let's continue with the rest of the lesson. Now, the third tense that we're going to have a look at is a future tense, and we're going to have a look at futuro simple, not the near future tense, which is formed with the verb ir, but we're going to have a look at actually a proper future tense, which is futuro simple. Now, the future tense, like easy as in English language, you use it to express obviously the actions that will happen in the future. Now let's have a look how to conjugate AR verbs in future tense, and our verb as example that we're going to have a look at is perdonar. Yo perdonaré, tú perdonarás, él, ella, usted perdonará, nosotros perdonaremos, vosotros perdonaréis y ellos, ellas, ustedes perdonarán. Now, let's have a look at how to conjugate the ER verbs in the future tense. And our example is the verb creer. Yo creeré, tú creerás, él, ella, usted creerá, nosotros creeremos, vosotros creeréis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes creerán. Did you notice that the actual endings for the future simple tense are the same for AR verbs and ER verbs? And also, did you notice that I need to keep the infinitive form, and then I need to add the endings on top of this, so next to the infinitive form. So I'm not getting rid of the AR of the infinitive form like I did in the present tense and the past tense before. Instead, I need to use the infinitive form, and next to it I'm gonna put the endings. Now let's have a look at the last group, which are the verbs ending with ir. Our example verb is recibir. Yo recibiré, tú recibirás, él, ella, usted recibirá, nosotros recibiremos, vosotros recibiréis, y ellos, ellas, ustedes recibirán. And don't forget to write accents with the endings for the future tense. And the last tense that we're going to have a look at is el condicional, so conditional tense. The conditional tense is translated in English with the word would. So for example, if I would to say yo compraría, I would buy. So we have two parts when translating it in English, whereas in Spanish we have just one word, and what you need to remember are the endings for conditional tense. So conditional tense expresses hypothetical actions, something that hasn't happened yet, but you would like to do this action, so for this action to happen. For the AR group, you're going to have a look at the verb comprar. Yo compraría, tú comprarías, él, ella, usted compraría, nosotros compraríamos, vosotros compraríais, y ellos, ellas, ustedes comprarían. And don't forget to write the accents when it comes to the ending, so that's very important. Now the ER verb that we're going to have a look at this example, how to conjugate it in conditional tense, is leer. Yo leería, tú leerías, él, ella, usted leería, nosotros leeríamos, vosotros leeríais, y ellos, ellas, ustedes leerían. And our example for the IR verb is the verb compartir. Compartir. Yo compartiría, tú compartirías, él, ella, usted compartiría, nosotros compartiríamos, vosotros compartiríais, y ellos, ellas, ustedes compartirían. Let me know in the comments which of the tenses did you find the most difficult one, and if you would like to cover any specific grammar point and I'd like to discuss, for example, a different use of the past tenses maybe, or anything else, let me know in the comments. As well as don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss your next Spanish lesson. If you want to know more about how to conjugate verbs in present tense, make sure that you check this video. And if you just want to recap on the basics of Spanish grammar, make sure that you check these two videos because I'm covering all the basics from nouns, gender, adjectives, pronouns, complemento objeto indirecto, complemento objeto directo, so everything is covered in those two lessons, so make sure that you check them out. And I'll see you soon. Hasta pronto!